Welcome to OPTO Sessions, Andy. So, how are things?
Well, almost Labor Day here, and the summer's
Mm,
almost over. And for me and Plug, it's been a good summer. So, just keep on pushing and working and moving ahead.
absolutely, yeah. Look forward to hearing about some of that momentum in due course. Where are you talking to us from?
I am in Slingerland, New York, and I suspect your office is saying, "Where the heck is Slingerland, New York?" Well, it's about 5 minutes from Albany, New York, the capital of the great state of New York, and about 2.5 hours north of New York City.
Lovely. We've just opened, well, in the process of opening an office over in New York. So, yeah, interested to visit ASAP.
It,
Um,
I'll be happy to see you in your office there and do another interview.
yeah, that would be great. Let's do a live one. Hopefully, in
Yeah.
the next couple of months, we can get over there and do a live session. That'd be great. Um, I've got a couple of questions here. I suppose just to set the context and introduce Plug Power to any of our
Yeah.
listeners that are unfamiliar with the company. So first of all, for anyone who hasn't been following the hydrogen revolution closely, perhaps you can just paint us a picture. What exactly is Plug Power building, and why should people care?
Well, first, we're actually the ones who've built more than anyone else in the world. We're not, we didn't enter hydrogen yesterday. We've been doing it for 25 years. And if you just go around the world, I'm sitting in our office here outside Albany, New York, which is a 350,000 square foot facility where integrate fuel cells and electrolyzers.
Wow.
About hour and 2 hours west of us is our facility in Rochester, which is the largest stack manufacturer in the world. Uh, you go around, we have about 300 people in Europe, many of them developing electrolyzer projects for the hydrogen activity going on all around the world. We have people in Pune, India. We operate the largest electrolyzer liquid hydrogen plant in the world, producing 15 tons per day out in Georgia. And we have two other hydrogen plants. If you want to actually see the hydrogen at work today, it's a Plug.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's dig into that then. Yeah, because you mentioned 15 tons there. I read that it was 40 tons daily across Georgia, Tennessee, and Louisiana.
Yeah.
Um, help us kind of visualize that. How many Amazon delivery trucks or homes is that fueling?
Yeah. So, best way to think about it is about 5 years ago, the largest user of liquid hydrogen in the world was actually NASA.
Hmm.
And Plug is bigger than NASA today. And so that just gives you a scale. So first, we're the largest user in the world. Um, when I think about 40 tons of hydrogen, that's 40,000 kilograms. And about a kilogram of hydrogen's about equal to 2 gallons of gasoline. So that's how much hydrogen we produce. And that hydrogen's being used 24/7, about every 2 to 3 seconds in the United States. There's probably a product, mostly fuel cells for forklift trucks at places like Walmart and Amazon, are being filled up with hydrogen produced by Plug. And here in the States, which is just a portion of our business, about 30% of retail food actually moves through products that are produced by Plug Power.
Yeah, fantastic. That helps to make it all less abstract
Yeah.
for me
Yeah.
and the listeners as well. I want to come back to your customer base, but before we do, obviously a big part of hydrogen use is the benefit it provides in terms of CO2 prevention. So
Yeah.
give us the real numbers. How much CO2 are you preventing, and is green hydrogen truly green yet?
Yeah. So it all has to do with if you look at it, it's the source of electricity, just like the source, if you think about our electrolyzers, just like the source of electricity for battery electric vehicles, our electrolyzers produces zero CO2.
Mm.
So then if you go back to the source, if you're running from wind, like we will be doing in Texas, even from a end-to-end point of view, it'll be zero carbon emissions. And what's really important is just like everybody wants charging stations built.
Mm.
And look, some charging stations are powered by coal. Ultimately, those charging stations are going to be powered by renewable energy, and the infrastructure is in place. In many ways, that's what we're doing with electrolyzers. You know, a lot of times we run from very, very clean sources like nuclear and solar and wind. But in the end, what's really critical is that these devices are there as the grid becomes more and more renewable. Our hydrogen becomes, from an end-to-end solution, completely green.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's move on to recent growth. You've touched on a couple of the key growth drivers and also your customers as well. So let's cover all of
Well,
that now. You recently posted 21% revenue growth to $174 million, I believe. So in a market where many clean tech companies are struggling, perhaps you can tell me whether that's a fair characterization as well. What's working at Plug that others are missing?
well, I think the fact that we've always thought about value, and the value has, in many cases, have to be more than just green. When you think about our work in material handling, so much of it is tied to the fact that they're able to be more productive. The vehicles, the forklift trucks run longer, they fuel faster. Think all those kind of attributes need less labor, so you move 8% less goods. So
Mm.
the value proposition isn't just sustainability. Our customers do care about sustainability. When you think about our electrolyzer business, I think especially your listeners in Europe and Australia and around the world, maybe a little bit more than the United States, recognize the commitments to lower CO2 is real.
Mm.
And when customers come to our plants in Georgia, the value is we can actually make the products. We talked about earlier the great factories we have, but we actually have products that work, and long experience working with customers. It's a lot different. I worked at Bell Labs. You're probably too young to remember what Bell Labs was, but it was the premier research lab in the world in
Mm.
the United States. And we're a lot of theoretical type of folks. And theory is great. Making things that work and run every day, that's what Plug does. And that really differentiates us.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's get on to some of the applications of the technology that you've described so far already. Amazon and
Yeah.
Walmart are already customers. I think you've mentioned that, and beyond the forklifts that we've discussed as well. What new applications of your technology will drive adoption at scale? Do you think?
Well, I think the important item, I think interesting, and you may not think about this. Uh, there's two which are almost indirect, and I can talk about other products like our stationery, but I'm going to talk about the fact that when you look at what we've done already, we've taken off the equivalent of 400 megawatts of electricity off the grid.
Mm.
Uh, and we either did that through time shifting, in many cases by cleaning up dirty hydrogen sources and and cleaning it up. We've actually prevented electricity. And 400 megawatts is really equivalent to a medium-sized power plant. And when you start thinking about the drive for data centers, think about the fact that by moving the fuel cells, hydrogen, uh, more electricity is available for other usage. And I don't think people think about that a great deal. The second area that I give a lot of thought to is that our electrolyzers products make renewables possible. Now, one of the biggest challenge with renewables is, you take a place like Germany in May, over 15% of the electricity was negative.
Mm.
If you could be generating hydrogen when electricity prices are low, you're actually making the electrolyzers load on the grid, which makes the value proposition for solar and wind stronger and really help to create growth in those industries. I could go on and talk about the interesting stationary products we're doing. There's a forest fire out in California at the moment
Mm.
for a change. And we actually, with a partner, have over 8 megawatts, which is powering a city when there's a fire using plug power fuel cells, and plug powers hydrogen. So, I mean, and those kind of products also become very important for the grid long term,
Mm.
because when the wind's not shining, the wind's not blowing, wind doesn't shine. The, the sun shines.
Yep.
You have you can be running your grid through fuel cells and hydrogen, and that hydrogen was produced when there was way too much wind and way too much solar. So it really makes the possibility of a complete renewable network realizable. And it's going to happen. I can't tell you it's going to happen tomorrow,
Hmm.
but the steps are in place for it to happen for the future.
Yeah, really exciting times. You mentioned your electrolyzer product a couple of times, so I just want to circle back on that because obviously it's very
Yeah.
important. I think sales for that nearly tripled to $45 million, so huge growth there as well on the monetary side. So give us a sense of who's buying the product, what's driving this urgency in that
Yeah.
particular product line.
So if you look around, I think there are two drivers. And a lot of it is nations goals to meet sustainability.
Mm.
Within the EU, you have companies which have, countries and have goals to reduce their CO2 footprint because
Yeah.
they understand that, there's externalities which aren't just captured in price, that unless you do something to facilitate technologies which are clean, it's not really viable long term for the world. And now I think what has changed over the past couple of years, and this is really important, that folks recognize, call it 25% of the world's CO2 comes from industrial processes
Mm.
and things which are molecules in many cases. So if you look at the markets where hydrogen's taking off today in electrolyzers, it's really in those kind of applications. It is things like green ammonia. I think everybody knows the war in Ukraine really created a crunch for ammonia. Um, its applications like, believe it or not, oil refinery, probably the
Mm.
biggest user of gray hydrogen today. And we have some great projects going on with Galp in Portugal, in Spain with Iberdrola and BP, that is changing out the process. I know today we're doing a tour with a large South American oil producer who's looking to move to green hydrogen. So those kind of applications, and one that I see over and over again is people looking to use electrolyzers to produce SAF. And
Mm.
there in Europe, where you're in the UK, is one of the leaders that really try to drive this. UK has a real aggressive program to build out hydrogen infrastructure. Spain has a real aggressive program. I had a wonderful time being up in Northern Ireland on the 4th of July. Uh,
Mhm.
and, they already have 6 gigawatts of wind power. And they have a dream of building it out to 36 gigawatts of wind power on the island and using that wind to create SAF, to create green ammonia, to be able to ship it around the world out of the port of Belfast. It's really, how you use your natural resources, and it provides great opportunities for countries and cities that you would never think be part of the energy generation business. And let me tell you, the wind blows in Northern Ireland. It was blowing 30 miles per hour when I was up there at 60
Yeah.
degrees on the 4th of July. Uh, Not my warmest 4th of July ever, but it was, when you see that, you can see how it all is possible. And you have government and people and universities and great companies, just not Plug, really thinking about how to build that future.
Yeah, fantastic, and really interesting to hear about that momentum closer to home for us
Yeah.
here in the UK.
Uh,
Um, I guess next, I'm interested to hear about how that translates to the company's bottom line and your overall balance sheet. Margins have improved, I think, versus last year. Still
Yeah.
negative, I believe, but
Yeah.
walk us through your playbook to reach break even and then beyond that.
Yeah. It's actually the reach break even is actually pretty straightforward.
Hmm.
Um, there's really three elements. One, we have to sell,
Hmm.
and we have to do over $200 million in a quarter. I talked about these great facilities. They also carry fixed load with them. So even if they're not cash burdens, they're burdens on the income statement. So we have to reach about 200 million in revenue. Um, we've taken the necessary steps in our hydrogen activity, both with building our plants as well as working with some key suppliers to make sure that our costs are lower. You know, that's actually a given. The
Yeah,
third one is our service business, and we've seen dramatic improvements, and that is continuing. And we believe those three elements allow us to reach gross margin break even by the end of this year. And probably more important, the steps we're taking really position the company to be EBITDA positive by the end of 26.
great. Fantastic times ahead then. And back in 2023, we read, anyone interested in Plug will have read about auditors issuing a going concern warning to the business. So, having talked about the positives, let's cover a quick negative. What was the kind of bet the company move that pulled you back from the brink? You can tell me whether that's a fair characterization or not. Um, and yeah, give us a sense of what happened there and how you're moving forward.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking about, it really didn't, when you were talking there, I really wasn't on the brink. We knew exactly what we were going to do. Unfortunately, our timing for raising capital between the end of the third quarter and the beginning of the fourth quarter, um, the auditors had to follow the rules and they gave us a going concern. But, you know, by, the next filing, that was gone.
Mm.
And if you really look at it, when the auditors do analysis, even today, they look 15 months ahead. And we have a clean opinion. We have one blimp, um, but it was really never. I knew that we had customers who wanted our products.
Yeah.
I knew we had a business plan that would allow us to execute. And look, we brought our hydrogen plants online. That helped us a great deal. So I can't say that I was ever worried about that I was in a position that the company was ever at risk.
Yeah, fantastic. But there's a couple more recent news then. I read again that the DOE just conditionally approved a $1.66 billion loan
Yeah.
guarantee. Talk to us about how or what needs to happen for that conditional to become a done deal and what could
Yeah.
potentially derail it, if anything.
Yeah. I mean, we've been, look, obviously the environment in the United States changed with the change of administration. Um, and, but the administration is very supportive of hydrogen.
Yeah.
And if you take a look at the recent bill passed in the United States from a fuel cell point of view, it was much more beneficial than the IRA.
Mm.
Our fuel cells have a tax credit of over 30% through 2032.
Hmm.
Uh, that really wasn't available under the IRA, which actually helps the growth of our fuel cell business here in the United States. I think what we're trying to work through with the DOE with is the final steps, and we're looking to bring an equity provider into the project itself.
Hmm.
DOE, I have to tell you, I've met with the new head of the DOE loan program, top notch. The Trump DOE is actually quite knowledgeable. It's a business environment and it's transactional.
Hmm.
And we're working to make sure the transaction's good for the United States and good for Plug.
Yeah, fantastic. Um, And I suppose to move on, having covered some risks or challenges to the business,
Yeah,
I'm also interested to hear about the competitive landscape. You're competing with Tesla, Rivian, for example, and other clean tech giants for talent. I'm talking about specifically here. How do you go about winning that a fight and attracting the best in class talent to Plug?
It's, I would think the culture plug is really important to the company.
Hmm.
Um, it's we fundamentally believe uh, everybody adds value. From our service people in the field, from the people in the factory. That's really important to plug the community of how we work together. Uh, Not one, Andy Marsh is not going to make plug successful. It's everybody working together. I think this is and our surveys show it, it's a very comfortable place to work because you can be yourself.
Mm.
Uh, you know, my personal philosophy, even though I've been here 17 years, I think it goes back to the original history of the company. My personal philosophy is I don't care where you came from, what religion you are, what sex you are, what your orientations are. If you can help make the company better, I want you on our team. And I think people who come work here recognize that that culture is very valuable. And look, there's great upsides plug financially. It's a great place for engineers to innovate. I mean, all those other items. But to me, it's that everyday culture. And, I like being in this environment. I like coming to work every day, most days. And it's important to the leadership team at Plug and the board that employees like coming here every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Really interesting to get that kind of on the ground insight into your culture and the working environment. So thanks for that. I mean, we typically end these sessions by focusing on looking ahead, I suppose, and getting an idea of the vision for the business and the kind of landscape that you expect over the next 5 to 10 years. So I've got one question on China. China's going all in on hydrogen at the moment. Are you
Yeah.
planning or are you playing offense or defense in relation to that and in relation to your international strategy?
I think I have a lot of respect for everything the Chinese have done. Um, but I also believe that, and I quite honestly know today our technology is ahead of China.
Hmm.
Just like in any competitive environment, we need to continue to innovate and keep on making sure our products are better. Um, we need to service our customers. And, I have a great chairman, and he's always told me over the 17 years, don't worry about the competition, worry about serving customers. And that's how we at Plug think about it.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, as I say, looking ahead 5 years from now, where do you see Plug Power's role in the global energy transition?
Well, look, I think the question's what's hydrogen's role?
Hmm.
And Plug will be a leading player in hydrogen's role. And I think that, you know, we'll be building more and more hydrogen plants, not only here in the United States, around the world. Um, some of those plants will be built, owned, and operated. Uh, some will be in partnership with customers. For this industry to succeed, low cost, available hydrogen is really, really important. And that's really a critical goal for Plug and has been for the last 17 years because nothing works unless hydrogen's competitive. And we talked about as the grid becomes more renewable, that's really an opportunity for hydrogen to become very, very competitive. There's going to become a point, and it's not too far out, where hydrogen is on par with natural gas from energy content because we will be able to be generating that hydrogen late at night when everybody's asleep. Hydrogen will be being produced. And when the cost of hydrogen is equal to the cost of natural gas, there'll be no reason for people to buy natural gas turbines. There'll be natural gas generators. Everybody will be moving to hydrogen. So applications today where people say we can't do it because of cost, we're going to be on the same track as solar, where there's going to be a day, call it 5 years from now, where people are going to look at the cost of moving the fuel cells in hydrogen versus the cost of using natural gas or oil, and they're going to sit back and say, 50% of the time, I want hydrogen. And when that day comes, we're building for it, we're ready. We have the facilities in place, we have the people in place, we have the capabilities in place. Plug's going to be a big, big winner in that journey.
Yeah, fantastic. Really exciting picture you're painting there.
Yeah.
I guess just to build on that with a final sort of closing question then.
I thought that was the final question. You're
You
throwing
piqued
me
my
off. I
interest.
gave a passionate last answer now.
Well, it was too good an answer that you piqued my interest so much that I need to ask a follow-up now.
Okay.
The OPTO Sessions tagline is invest in the next big idea. So we're interested to hear from public company leaders about the next big idea within their particular industry or their sector that's perhaps underrepresented, underspoken about, that you think deserves more visibility. So is there an innovation in your space, a particular product line, something even more niche or nuanced than that you think needs to be spoken about more and that represents the next big idea in the hydrogen space?
And I think it may not sound like a big idea, but it's really important. Do you know what my biggest challenge is? My biggest challenge is construction costs, right? If you take a look at building a hydrogen plant, probably 65% of it is construction costs.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about products like our stationary to power the grid or our electrolyzer projects, it's how to, and this is no different than how people may be thinking about how you build homes in the future. We have to design our products so that they can just be dropped in place. That there's very, very little construction next to interconnects happening. I talked about that vision of how we're competitive with natural gas. If 60% of my cost is construction, that's the part that I need to reduce. And that's really where our next generation products will actually be designed so that they're more more Lego style, drop and play. And customers have to do very little. It accelerates the time to market. It makes costs dramatically lower. And it really makes it possible that hydrogen's competing with other energy sources immediately. That's the key. And it's not as sexy as telling you we're going to develop the next MEA without precious metals. It does those sort of activities don't compare to what it costs to construct. And as I said, Plug lives in the real world every day. And, I come from a very scientific background, but in the real world, that's the difference, and that's going to accelerate it. It's just as simple as, how, making fueling stations available for electric vehicles made that industry take off and made it easy. The construction's a simple item that's will dramatically drive this industry and drive Plug to success.
Yeah, fascinating. Glad I asked it. That was, as promised, indeed my final question.
I really enjoyed the discussion today.
Thank you very much, Andy. So did I. And just thanks again for joining us on OPTO Sessions. It's been a real pleasure.
Real pleasure. Thank you very much. Take it easy now.